today, we're going to do our famous Ninja Chicken, a favorite on campus, a Ratskeller favorite. We're going to go through and we're going to talk about the brining process, the cut of meat that we use, and we're going to make a really great chicken sandwich. So some things that go into that. It's a brined chicken. So we'll talk about brining real quick, just a little bit. A brine is usually a salted solution that you soak a piece of protein in for a period of time, usually 2 to 3 hours to 24 hours. And what it does is it promotes moisture and flavor, and it just makes it come out a lot nicer in the long run. So today, we're actually going to do a pickle brine, all right? So let's talk about pickles a little bit, all right? So pickles have been around forever, right? So it's actually rumored that pickles were one of Cleopatra's beauty secrets, actually. Pickles have made appearances in the Bible and Shakespeare's writing. They've been around for thousands of years, dating back as far as 2030 BC, when cucumbers from native India were picked, and from the Tigris Valley, the word pickle comes from Dutch pickle and German pokel. So it means salt or brine. So your typical pickles, they started with with the cucumbers, and it was a way of preserving food. It was one of the earliest mobile foods for sailors, hungry sailors and travelers, and it was a great source of food during the cold winter months to go along with potatoes and bread and things like that. So pickles are created by immersing them in fresh and acidic liquid, usually a vinegar, maybe dulled down with a little bit of water. The acidic balance is what preserves the pickle, and that's what this started out with, was with preserving foods. And the acidic and the salt would preserve the pickles to the point where the mason jar, invented the jars for pickling. So during this pickling process, okay, there's often lactin fermented in saltwater brine. The lactic microbial organisms are what turn the natural sugars of food into lactic acid, all right? And that's what preserves the pickles. So the brine is usually a vinegar with salt, garlic, dill, but there's also all different kinds of pickles. So the English brought the bread and butter pickle over, the Europeans, and that's where they get that sweet pickle, a little bit of mustard seed in there and everything. And they're not limited to just that dill and cucumber variety. They can be made with cauliflower. All different vegetables can be pickled. Onions. So the Germans pickle cabbage and make sauerkraut. The French pickle the little cornichons, which are the little mini pickles, and they serve them with pâtés and rich foods, pungent cheeses. In the Middle East, pickles are served with every meal. They pickle lemons, peppers, olives. Russians, they pickle tomatoes, among other things. Koreans have their kimchi, which is that spicy fermented cabbage. Japanese pickle daikon, which is the white radish that looks similar to a carrot. And each variety of the pickle all over the world has a beloved variety. So pickles, I mean, how cool is that? So what we're going to do is we're going to start by making our own pickles. So I've got some that I made ahead of time, but I've also got some that I'm going to make right here in front of you. So what we have here is, this is an English cucumber. I like it because it has a small, consistent size. You can also use what is called a Kirby cucumber. Kirby cucumbers are that perfect size for a pickle. They're the ones that you see the spears, and you see the half sours and things like that. So these are the English cucumbers, and I sliced them nice and thin. Okay, you can kind of see. So these pickles are kind of a quick pickle. We're not necessarily preserving them to put them in our pickle cellar, for a year from now. So there's a couple different options when you're making this pickle brine. So I've got the cucumbers right here, and now we'll walk through the pickle brine a little bit. So the pickle brine consists of, I've got some apple cider vinegar, I've got some water, equal parts. I've got some fresh garlic, I've got some dill, I've got black peppercorns, and I've got salt. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix this together. So So if I was to be preserving these pickles and putting them in a jar for, say, next year or sometime in the future, I would definitely cook this liquid. Not only would I cook this liquid, but after I pickle, I would pour it into the pickle jars hot and then seal the pickle jars and actually boil them in water, covered, for probably 3 to 5 minutes. What it does is it seals it and it brings the temperature up so that it is actually a preserved pickle. For this application, it's a quick pickle. So, you know, you can heat it up and you can pour it over the pickles and you can let them sit. But just pouring it over cold and letting it sit for up to 24 hours, you'll get kind of the same effect, but you'll get a brighter color on the pickle, if you will. So I'm just adding my garlic, my peppercorns, my salt. The salt's important. And you'll be surprised there's not that much salt in this ratio. There's, I'd say, a teaspoon of salt in this whole mixture. Then I've got my dill, okay? So I've got this mixture here. I'm just gonna kind of stir it up a little bit. Again, you can heat this in a pan to let the flavors meld. Another thing you can do is you can actually use half of the vinegar or just use the vinegar, and instead of adding the water, add ice afterwards to cool it down, okay? So we've got our cucumbers. We're just gonna basically pour that brine right over. Real simple. And then we're just gonna let that sit covered overnight. In about 2 hours, you're gonna catch that flavor. It's a quick pickle, it's a marinade. But if you do it overnight, you'll get a little bit more of the flavor, and it'll be a little bit more intense. So, again, basic quick pickles. Cucumbers, dill, garlic, brine. There's all sorts of different brines that you can use. There's sweeter ones, there's more spicy ones. You can add more garlic, you can add more horseradish. There's so many different varieties to pickling. That's why it's so exciting. The many different vinegars that are offered. It doesn't have to be cider vinegar. You could use champagne vinegar, rice vinegar, raspberry vinegar. There's just so many different things that you can do. All right, so that being said, I've got these pickles right here that I previously pickled. You can kind of see they're a little bit, they've got a little bit less of a color, but they've got a great flavor. You can smell them, they smell fantastic. So our pickles, that's basically the brine that we're gonna use. So this brine that I've made, I've got a little batch over here. Same exact thing. So once your pickles are pickled, you can pour off a little bit of that or make a separate batch for your chicken. So I've got the same exact pickle brine here. It's the cider vinegar, it's the salt, it's the peppercorns, it's the dill, it's the garlic. And staying true to that fried chicken tradition, I'm gonna add some buttermilk to that. So you can see that buttermilk in there. And then this is going to be your mixture that you're going to marinate this chicken in. So let's talk about the chicken a little bit. So chicken, brine chicken especially. One thing about chicken is it's the greatest power is its ability to retain flavor. So when you brine a chicken, or almost any piece of meat, but chicken especially, it picks up those flavors. So if you were to do an Asian brine with ginger, garlic, and chilies, and just like a little bit of rice vinegar and maybe some soy instead of the salt, you'll get that nice brine Asian brine. You could do all sorts of different ones. The pickle fried chicken is a great flavor combination with the chicken. You get that nice pickle brine with the salt and the garlic and the dill. All those flavors go very well with the chicken.
Chef, is there a reason you use buttermilk as opposed to regular milk?
Yeah, the buttermilk actually has almost like a vinegar component to it. So the vinegar in the buttermilk, and if you were to make your own buttermilk, you could do it with like a 2% milk or a skim milk and some either vinegar or lemon juice, and you get the same effect. Believe it or not, you actually add the vinegar or the lemon juice to the buttermilk or to the milk, and it actually thickens it up a little bit. That's why when you see buttermilk, it's got a little bit of a thickness to it. So that buttermilk really lends to the the acid in the buttermilk lends to tenderizing that chicken. Same way a brine does, okay? So, you know, this chicken, the exterior, the crispiness and the inside. So this brine, basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna marinate our chicken in it. So I've taken 2 chicken thighs, or actually 1 chicken thigh, and I've marinated it overnight in that buttermilk, in that pickle brine, okay? So once that is done, all right, so the next day or a couple hours afterwards, what I'm gonna do now is our coating. So our coating is half flour, half cornstarch. So when you're eating General Tso's chicken or some types of Asian foods that they have that extra crisp bite to them, it's because they use cornstarch instead of flour to dredge the protein. And when you fry it with the cornstarch, you get that extra crispiness. Same with rice flour, things like that. But for this application, I've got half cornstarch, half flour, and I've seasoned it with white pepper and salt. You always got to season the flour to get that nice flavor. You don't want to over season the flour because you've got a little bit of, you know, that this chicken has got, it's going to have a little salt to it because it's in a brine. So what's nice is that brine, the pickle juice, the buttermilk, it kind of is going to be what holds that coating onto the chicken. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that thigh and I'm going to push it into this flour and cornstarch mixture. Don't be afraid, be generous. What I like to do too is I like to kind of almost push it down with my fist. Again, this is kind of like you're pounding out your chicken a little bit. Some of the chicken thighs, you know, they can kind of be a little thick. You want a nice even size, a nice even thickness so that it cooks evenly. Also so that when it's on your sandwich, it eats well. So you can kind of see that right there. See the width. You can see how it's coated. Now this is the trick, all right? So after I've done this, I'm gonna let this sit. So you can put it on a plate, you can put it in your refrigerator, and believe it or not, you can leave it uncovered a couple of hours, and that cornstarch starts to soak up a little bit of that pickle juice, that brine that it's in. And when it does that, it creates the little crispies a little bit. And the uncovering part of it dries up those crispies a little bit so that when you do fry the chicken, you get a really nice crispy exterior. All right? So again, we're going to take this and we're going to let it sit uncovered in your refrigerator for a couple hours. You can even do it overnight if you want. All right? And then
you have a preference, breast versus thigh?
I prefer thighs, but I'm glad you asked that. Many things we do, we're talking about the different variations. So this is a boneless chicken thigh. It goes really well on a sandwich, but it also would be great just as a fried chicken. So you can use this brine for chicken, whether it's a bone-in chicken breast, a boneless chicken breast, a boneless chicken thigh, or that 8-cup variety, if you will, of a whole chicken with your legs, wings, thighs, and breast bone-in. I suggest if you do the bone-in, that you definitely let it brine overnight. And then you follow the same directions. Although if I was cooking the chicken bone-in and it wasn't this thigh that I've kind of pushed so that it's a little bit more of a consistent size, I would probably drop my oil temperature a bit. Maybe 300 to 325 for bone-in chicken. This chicken we're going to fry at 350 today. So I've got my chicken that has been in the refrigerator for a couple hours, uncovered, and it really developed a nice, really nice coating. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to fry that chicken. I've got some oil here, and I've got it heated up to 350 degrees. So at home, you might not have an induction burner like I do that has a temperature control. They sell little fry-laters out there, but one thing you could do is on your stove, they sell candy thermometers that kind of go right on the side of your pot, if you will, and you can test your oil temperature with a candy thermometer. And that way, if you're just have a pot of oil on your stove and you don't have a way to control the temperature, use that candy thermometer. It'll keep it within the temperature you want.
What kind of oil you using?
I'm using canola oil. You can use peanut oil. You can use vegetable oil. I think canola oil works well with this. So we're going to go ahead and kind of get this chicken frying and move on to our accompaniments, okay? So, real nice and easy. One thing about frying, one thing I learned a long time ago, if you're sauteing, if you're frying, you want to put that chicken in so that if there's any splash, it's away from you. If you're sauteing up a piece of chicken or whatever, you're putting that in the pan, put it in so that if there's any oil that splashes, it goes that way. You don't ever want to put it towards you because you could burn yourself, all right? So we're going to fry up both of these pieces of chicken because we're going to do 2 different kinds today.
You use olive oil for this?
You know, I would use a regular olive oil. I would not use an extra virgin olive oil because the burning point is higher. You can use olive oil. A regular olive oil, you know, you might get a little flavor from it. But really, I think, you know, for reasons of efficiency and really cost, you know, I mean, why buy a really good olive oil to fry chicken when, you know, olive oil, in my opinion, you know, is good for making dressings, things like that. So, as we're frying this chicken, okay, chicken's frying away, we're going to talk about the accompaniments that go with it, okay? So, one concept that we have here on campus is our hand-cut fries. So, we've developed this recipe with our French fries. You see here, I've got a couple of nice russet potatoes. I'm going to actually hand cut them. There's a couple different ways. You can cut them by hand. There's a thing called a mandolin that you could do. We actually have in our kitchens where we do a lot of French fries. It's like a French fry cutter that's on the wall. And you put the potato in and you slam it down and it kind of just cuts it. It has a little blade that cuts it into French fries, okay? So what we're going to do while our chicken is frying, we're going to go ahead and cut that potato. I've got a cut glove, okay? Now, a really good tip when cutting things. See how I'm holding that knife? You see how I'm holding the blade? I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm doing this. Reason why is because that knife is an extension of your arm. You can see how my wrist moves. You see how I'm holding onto the blade. You have much more control with a knife when you hold onto that blade. Another really good trick. I've got a potato here. See how it rolls around on the cutting board? That could be unsafe. You know, one thing I learned going through my culinary career, especially early on, was knife safety. So there's a couple of things. One, really pay attention to what you're doing. A sharp knife is a safe knife. A dull knife is more of a not safe knife, if you will. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to cut one piece off. I don't know if you can see that or not. But what I'm doing now is now I have a nice flat surface. That potato's not going anywhere. So it's more safe for me to cut, okay? So I'm just going to go through. Now, what's great is you can cut your potatoes any way you want. You want to do shoestring fries, you want to do steak cut fries, you want to do straight fries. It's pretty much your choice, and the potato doesn't really care what you do with it, all right? So we're going to cut this in these nice long straight fries. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, all right? And you notice how a lot easier when that potato's laying flat, not rolling around on the cutting board. Nice and easy, all right? So if I was to save these potatoes and make some later, I would probably soak them in a little bit of water. The water will take away some of the starch, if you will. So a couple different ways you can do fries. I don't know if you've ever heard of twice fried potatoes. So that's where you blanch the potato in a lower oil and then set it aside and then fry it again at a higher temperature to get the crispiness. Well, here on campus, we've developed a recipe that we don't have to fry them twice. And the recipe holds up really, really well. So I'm going to kind of lay my fries out here. Right? Kind of see how I got them laid over here? And this is where the recipe gets interesting. We're going to coat them with cornstarch. The cornstarch is going to steal in that moisture from the potato. And it's going to create a coating, if you will. What's nice is it's cornstarch, so it's gluten-free. So we're going to kind of toss this in a little cornstarch coating. I have a little trick the way I'm going to do that. Here on campus, we use little shakers. It's kind of tough to get an even sprinkling of cornstarch, and you don't want it to be too cornstarchy. Just a nice little sprinkling, just enough to coat. So I've got a little sifter here. And I've got my cornstarch, and I'm actually just going to sift it on there. It makes it a little easier. All right. Sifters are great. All right, you can use it for powdered sugar, a little fried dough, things like that. So, I'm going to make sure these are nice and coated. See how I want to make sure they're coated all the way. Not too much, but just enough so it's got that little bit of coating.
What's the best potato for a fry?
I think russets are. I really do. I think russet lends really well to a French fry. Potato chips. You know, people don't realize how easy potato chips are to make. You know, again, that mandolin, they sell them all the time now. You thin slices, fry it in oil, move them around quite a bit, pull them out when they're crispy, season them how you'd like, and potatoes are so versatile. And again, you can do shoestring fries, which are a little smaller than these. What we're going to do, I'm going to check my chicken and see how that is. For the chicken, frying that chicken until it's 165 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I've got this thermometer here. I'm going to make sure that that chicken's 165 degrees. Let's see how it's looking. Oh yeah. So we're starting to get a nice little brown on them, nice little coating. I'm going to say they probably got another minute. I'd like to see them a little bit browner, but they're getting close. All right.
Well, if you want to go gluten-free, you can use cornstarch and milk flour.
Absolutely. So they sell rice flour, spelt flour, and the rice flour actually has a similar reaction that the cornstarch has. It's a little bit more crispy than regular flour, and it's gluten-free completely. Cornmeal is another thing. You can dredge it in cornmeal and get a really nice cornmeal dredge also that's gluten-free. You can even mix the cornstarch with cornmeal too, and you'll get a little bit different texture in your chicken. So that's almost done. So in the meantime, we're going to talk about the Nashville hot chicken. So we're going to make two different kinds of sandwiches here. We're going to make a plain one, which is not really plain. It's pickle brine with homemade pickles, you know, a really nice bun, which we'll talk about, a local bakery that we use. But the Nashville hot sauce. So Nashville hot chicken is a pretty popular thing these days, and it's a really interesting fact. So the origin of Nashville's now famous hot chicken sandwich dates back to the 1930s. Local legend goes a scorned woman was seeking revenge on her womanizing significant other. His name was Thornton Prince. So she doused his chicken with cayenne pepper, a very hot pepper, and she was hoping that it would be inedible and painful, as a matter of fact. But it turned out that Prince absolutely loved it. He opened it, and so much he decided to open his own restaurant utilizing a hot sauce recipe. It's called Prince's Hot Chicken Shack, okay? And it's still open today. Family run, taken over by the original owner's great niece, Andre Prince Jeffries. Interesting little fact. The Nashville hot chicken. So, you know, it can be very, very spicy. You can tone it down a bit, but we're going to go through and we're going to kind of make that Nashville hot sauce. I'm going to pull our chicken out. I'm going to make sure that it's up to temp. And then we're gonna make our nice little hot sauce while we're frying our French fries.
What do
Okay?
you do with the oil? What can you do with the oil when you're done?
You know, interesting. You can, you know, if you're gonna do more frying at your house, there's nothing wrong with straining the oil and saving it for your next fry. That's what I would do. Some cooks swear by oil that's been seasoned already. You know, that has chicken that has been fried in it. Some Southern cooks might save that oil, believe it or not, for generations and use it. And that might be the secret. You say, how is that chicken so good? And they say, I've used the same oil for the last 5 years. It sounds crazy, but it's true. All right, so this chicken's definitely, so another way, when it's frying and you start to get little bubbles at the end, that means that the juices are coming out and that chicken's starting to cook. So I always use a paper towel lined thing here, just to kind of, you don't want your chicken sandwich to be greasy. So I'm going to check the internal temperature on this, just to make sure that it's safe to eat. What's nice about chicken thighs, I think they're very forgiving. I think they're very forgiving in the fact that you can overcook them a little bit, and they're still juicy. And the brine makes a big difference with this. I think brine promotes that keeping your chicken juicy despite whether you overcook or not. And that goes with other proteins as well. You can brine a ham, a fresh ham, and it does the same thing. You get the nice flavor. It kind of keeps the juices in there. So these little thermometers, they sell all different ones. What people don't realize is that little tip right there is where your temperature's going. So you just want that just to go in the middle. And we're perfect. We're at 175 degrees. That's perfect. All right, so as our chicken's hanging out over here, we're gonna fry some French fries. All right, so you see again, got that nice cornstarch coating, not too much. All right, and we're gonna safely. So you see how I'm kind of doing this with this. If you have a spoon or if you have a little basket, better than just dropping them into water. You don't want to splash yourself. We're gonna throw those right in there. I think it's important to move them around a little bit. All right, so our fries are frying. In the meantime, Nashville hot sauce. All right, so very simple ingredients here. So we've got a little bowl, okay, and we've got cayenne pepper is your main ingredient. Very spicy, okay. I've got a little paprika, black pepper, garlic powder, salt, brown sugar, and a little bit of oil to make it into the sauce. So we're gonna start with the spices. A little trick you can do, you can also toast these spices a little bit before you make the sauce. It kind of brings out the oils and a little bit of the flavor. You don't have to, and if you toast the cayenne, be careful if you smell it because it'll make you cry. All right, so the cayenne pepper, the paprika, garlic powder, black pepper, and you can, this recipe, you can make it a little less hot, a little bit more sweet. Really, you can play around with this recipe quite a bit. You could use honey instead of the brown sugar. You can add a little mustard in there if you wanted to. So I've got these ingredients with the salt, of course, and I'm going to add in my oil.
What kind of oil?
Any type of oil that you want to use. This is actually vegetable oil. Olive oil would work well for this because it's a dressing, it's a sauce, and olive oil has that higher fat content. It's got a little bit more mouthfeel. So what we're going to do, we're going to mix this up, right? So, you know, if you can see that, that's got a nice little color to it. I want to let those flavors meld. Now, if you're at home and you want to use, if you're making a bigger batch, you can use a blender. You can use one of those little immersion blenders, if you will. Our fries are looking good, frying up nice. And so it's just basically oil and spices, right? So what I like to do, if I put this in a blender, I can kind of emulsify it by just adding a touch of water. So I'll just put like a teaspoon of water in there. The water kind of, almost like a vinaigrette, kind of gets with that oil and sort of emulsifies it a little bit. If you put it in a blender, it'll emulsify completely. And what we do in the kitchens in our restaurant, we put it in a squeeze bottle. That way you can kind of shake it up, make sure all the spices are mixed really well. All right. Now this sauce is hot. You know, it's got a little spice to it. So our fries are almost done. And what we're going to do, we're going to make some chicken sandwiches. I've got these nice plates. I've got some salt right here to season our fries when they come out. So I hope everybody's doing well out there. We're thinking about doing more shows. We want to really get your feedback and see what you really would like to see. We miss all of you. Love putting these gloves on. So what we're going to do, we're going to assemble our chicken sandwiches. So a really nice bun is really important. We use a local bakery, Heidelberg Bakery. We've got these really nice buns, these really nice Kaiser rolls that lend really well to this application. I'll make sure we have our gloves on so that we're practicing food safety. Anything that you're serving that you have a hard time putting down these gloves. Put about the ones on I have. So our fries are almost done. So when we pull them out, we're going to season them with a little bit of salt. I'd say they took about 7 minutes, roughly. Now that I've got my gloves on. All right, we got our Nashville hot sauce. We'll put right there. And what we're going to do, we're going to assemble these sandwiches. So we've got these really nice local Heidelberg buns. You can use a ciabatta. You can use a baguette, whatever your preference is. All right? So what we're going to do, we're going to take a little bit of this hot sauce and not too much because it can really be spicy. And I'm just going to kind of put a tablespoon in this bowl over here to toss one of these chicken breasts in, or chicken thighs in. Oh, yeah. You can see that coating with that sauce. This bad boy is going to be spicy. All right? Put that right on the bun. That's your Nashville hot right there. That's going to be good. And it looks like our fries are looking really nice. I'm going to let them go like just another maybe 30 seconds to a minute. Get some nice golden brown. I like leaving the skins on the potatoes. I think it lends a nice flavor. And it shows everybody that you used a real potato. Okay? So in the meantime, we're going to take our regular chicken. Put that on a bun. And we've got these homemade pickles. I think the pickles make all the difference. I really do. So I'm going to put 2 or 3 pickles right on each sandwich. The pickles are a conversation piece. Pickles are very popular today. And when people eat these sandwiches, they're going to know that you made the pickle. They're going to know that it wasn't a jarred pickle that you just decided to take, you know, kosher dill or bread and butter pickles. And what's great, again, is you can customize your pickle. So I live in Saratoga Springs, New York, and there is a horseradish farm called Whalen's Horseradish Farm. And they make a horseradish pickle that will knock your socks off. I think they're my favorite pickles. They got a spice to them. They're amazing. So the point is, the pickles, really you can lend any flavoring to it, whatever you like, whatever your preference is. All right? So I got a little shredded lettuce right here. Shredded lettuce goes really nice on this sandwich. too much. You want to have the right proportion, right? And then just a really nice sliced tomato. All right? So in the meantime, I think these fries are looking good. Oh yeah. And you could just see the crispiness from that cornstarch coating. Oh yeah. So you could fry them more or less, whatever your preference is. Right? And now we're going to assemble. These great little picks. I think they make a statement, if you will. All right? Pick sandwich. We got our Nashville hot coming over. All right? I think it's good. And, you know, just for, cut one in half. That way, if you get full, you can eat the first half and save the second half for later. Or split it with a friend. All right? All right, see that? And now for presentation, let's stand these fries right up in this, right in the cup. Again, it's that restaurant presentation to wow your friends. You could use a paper cup. You could use these little fry leader baskets that they sell nowadays for fancy restaurants, pubs, things like that. All right. Nice, fresh, not frozen. There you have it. Okay, we got our Nashville hot chicken. We got our Ninja chicken. We got our hand-cut fries.
Where on campus do you get these?
So Ratskeller, and this past year we actually put them on the menu at Dutch as well. So Dutch Hollow, Ratskeller, they're on their retail menus, and then every once in a while we run them in the dining halls as well. You might see the 8-cut fried chicken in the dining halls versus the sandwich. That's what's nice about the recipe is you can do many different things with it. And what's really nice is just for maybe a nice hot summer day when you're with your family, this could be a really nice addition for a picnic. And what's really nice is too, you know, I would eat the chicken cold. If I had some of these, I would maybe fry a couple extra. And then the next day, the cornstarch coating holds its crispiness so well that you can kind of cut it in strips, put it over a salad, or you can have a cold fried chicken sandwich, which are excellent. Pack it for a lunch, you know, and bring it with the sauce on it. Again, so you got your plain chicken over here. There's many different sauces you could use. You know, you could do a buttermilk ranch. You could do an herb aioli, things like that. But it's just a really nice chicken sandwich that you know that you will impress your friends with. So I hope everybody's gonna try this at home, and you know we'll have them ready when you get back to campus. And yeah, so that's our Nashville hot chicken sandwich. Anybody got any questions? Anybody have any comments or anything, any feedback or anything like that? We'd like to see you guys in the future. What you'd like to see in the future, let us know. You know, we're really excited about this, and we're really kind of evolving into the show. If you noticed, our studio is a little different this week than it was last week. We're playing around with our camera angles and just trying to make it so that it's very enjoyable but very educational at the same time. And we want to connect with everybody from Union. We miss everybody.